The story begins at around 3:30 a.m. when a high-security truck stopped outside a donut shop in Los Angeles, and two security guards went inside. A car and an SUV blocked the truck's path, and some of the gangsters got out wearing body armor and gas masks. These criminals were also heavily armed with powerful assault rifles. As soon as the guards emerged, the gangsters aimed their guns at them. The truck driver immediately alerted the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, reporting that they were surrounded by armed men. One guard cleverly tried to draw his weapon, but a gangster shot him. Then another gangster killed the truck driver. The criminals opened the truck's door and pulled out the remaining guard. Just then, the police arrived. A gunfight erupted. However, the police's standard-issue handguns were no match for the criminals' assault rifles. 4 police officers and 1 gangster were killed in the exchange, and the criminals soon fled with the truck. They drove the truck to a warehouse. The gang's leader, Ray, severely reprimanded Bosco for shooting the security guard. Ray instructed the rest of the gang that the damaged truck needed to be fixed. As Ray opened the truck door, Ensign asked Ray if he was okay. Ray replied that they had killed 4 police officers and the police would be hunting them like dogs. Detective Nick O'Brien arrived at the scene of the incident and then went to the LA Sheriff's Department officers who were standing near the dead gangster. The police officers couldn't figure out why the criminals had taken an empty truck. Nick suggested that they must have a larger plan. A short distance away, across the street, Bosco was taking pictures of the meeting. Back at the warehouse, Bosco showed the pictures to Ray, pointing out Nick's photo and identifying him as the officer in charge of the incident. Ray informed his associates that Nick was the head of the Major Crimes Division. Donnie, who had driven the truck the previous night, saw Nick's photo and immediately left. Nick and his fellow officers were investigating the case. They concluded that it was an inside job. Otherwise, how would the robbers know that the truck would be there at 3:30 a.m.? They suspected Ray, who had been released on parole just 8 months earlier, was behind the heist. Donnie worked as a bartender at night. One night, he saw a man who worked at the Federal Reserve Bank forget his access ID at the bar. Donnie placed the ID in the cash register and went to Mac, who was one of Ray's gang members. Nick was also sitting at the bar and started questioning Donnie. Donnie claimed he didn't know who frequented the bar, saying that anyone from criminals to police officers could be there. It was a bar for everyone. Donnie agreed with this. When Donnie's shift ended and he was about to leave, Nick knocked on his car window and knocked Donnie unconscious. When Donnie woke up, he was in an unfamiliar place. When Donnie stepped out of the bedroom, he saw Nick's team and 4 women. Nick showed Donnie a CCTV photo of him meeting with Ray. Detective Gus told Donnie they knew everything about him. He had been arrested for grand theft auto, jailed for attempted murder, and had the largest speeding ticket in California history. Gus warned him that just one mistake could send him back to jail for years. Donnie pleaded, "Please, sir, I've only met Ray once or twice. I don't know anything else." Nick showed Donnie a tattoo on his arm that read "Regulators." Nick asked if he knew what it meant. "It's a gang of cops called the Clique," Nick explained. "I'm part of it. This gang doesn't believe in rules. It doesn't give criminals a chance to reform. It just shoots them." Nick then directly asked Donnie what a cowardly guy like him was doing with such a dangerous gang. Donnie said, "Sir, I'm just their driver. I don't know anything about the Thieves' operation." Nick told Donnie to stay in contact with them. "And when I call, you better pick up or I'll pick you up. Understood?" Meanwhile, the gang was staking out the Federal Reserve Bank of Los Angeles. Ray explained that it was the only bank that had never been successfully robbed. Ray noted that the security system was so impenetrable that there had been 53 attempted robberies, but not a single one had succeeded, which is why Ray wanted them to rob it. At the police department, officers discovered that Ray, Ensign, Donnie, and Bosco were all retired Marine commandos. The officers investigated all the major robberies over the past 10 years and found that when Ray was in jail for those 10 years, no large-scale robberies had occurred. Nick told the officers that if they caught Ray, all the unsolved robberies would be cleared up. Ray and his gang went back to the warehouse. Ray started explaining the federal bank's daily routine to his gang. Ray said the bank removes old, unusable, or torn bills from its database every day. Between 4 and 5 p.m., the notes are shredded into tiny pieces, and this waste is picked up by a waste management company. He said the room where the $100 bills are counted alone processes at least $30 million daily. Ray's plan was that they needed to get to the bank before the money was shredded. This way, they would have at least $30 million that technically belongs to no one. "We won't be stealing from a person," he said. Donnie then started working for a Chinese food delivery company that bank employees regularly ordered from. Donnie went inside the bank to deliver food, carrying 2 bags. Security scanned Donnie's access card to let him in. He delivered 1 bag to the women in the cafeteria, but took the other bag into the restroom. He hid the bag in the ventilation hole above. That night, Ray and his associates were eating at a restaurant when the police suddenly arrived. Nick walked up to Ray's table and spoke to Donnie, pretending that he had met Donnie at the gym. Back at the warehouse, Ray became suspicious of Donnie, wondering if he was a cop. Donnie denied it, but Ray held a gun to him and asked again how he knew Nick. Donnie confessed that Nick had caught him and knew about all of them. He swore he hadn't seen Nick since. Ray believed him and asked Donnie to deliver a message to Nick. The robbery would happen this Friday. Donnie met Nick at a suit store. Nick asked what they were doing at the restaurant. Donnie quickly changed the subject, saying the robbery was happening this Friday, but he didn't know the location. Nick then went to a club where Ray's girlfriend worked and watched her show. Ray's girlfriend came off the stage, approached Nick, and whispered something in his ear. Afterward, the two of them went to her house. The next morning, when Ray arrived, his girlfriend ran out of the living room, and Nick emerged from the bedroom shirtless. The 2 men stared at each other, and both their eyes fell on a gun on the table. Nick subtly motioned with his eyes for Ray to pick up the gun. But Ray didn't fall for the trap. Instead, he walked past Nick, went into the bedroom, and closed the door. Nick then got into his car and called his partner, giving him the next location for the robbery that he had learned from Ray's girlfriend. Later, Ray's girlfriend told him, "I did what you asked." The day of the robbery arrived, and the police were watching the bank. Suddenly, a van pulled into the parking lot. Ray and his gang, wearing bulletproof vests, masks, and carrying assault rifles, entered the bank. They immediately shot at the security cameras and ordered everyone to get down. The gang collected everyone's phones, tied their hands, and put bags over their heads. Ray told the bank manager to call the police and demand a $100 million ransom and a fully fueled helicopter. Otherwise, they would shoot one hostage every hour, and if any police officer tried to come inside, everyone will die one by one. Soon, the police and the FBI were outside the bank. A phone suddenly rang inside the bank, and Ray answered. He immediately demanded to know if they would get what they asked for. The police officer said they were working on their demands. Ray snapped, "You called without getting the money, so you just got someone killed." Just then, Bosco led a man to the back, and the sound of a gunshot was heard. The officer called again, and this time the manager answered. The manager informed him that one person had already been killed. "Every time you call, more people will die," he said. "So don't call again until you have the money these thieves asked for." The officer asked if they could wait 90 minutes, to which Ray agreed, and the manager relayed the message. Outside, the police were reviewing the bank's map. Inside, the sound of an explosion was heard, and the police realized the thieves had broken into the vault. Nick looked at the map and asked Tony, "What is this?" Tony pointed to a sewage line that was supposedly closed. Nick then spotted an entrance to the sewer and had an idea. Nick said, "We have to go in." He grabbed an iron rod and began to open the bank's main door. Once inside, Nick asked the hostages if they were okay. Not a single thief was there. Nick and his partners then went to the back of the bank where the hostage had supposedly been killed. But the killing was a fake. The girl was alive. Soon they saw a hole connected to the sewage line, meaning the thieves had escaped that way. Nick entered the sewer hole, following them. Mac, posing as an Allied Security Company officer, called the bank. He said, "Our truck is only 2 minutes away. It should be arriving soon, so open the gate." Ray and Ensign, wearing uniforms identical to the Allied guards, and driving the truck they had stolen at the beginning, which they had repainted and slightly modified to look exactly like the original Allied truck, arrived to pick up the delivery. They stopped the truck at the bank's security gate and showed their IDs to the Federal Reserve Bank officer on duty. The IDs looked completely authentic, and they had already been told over the phone that the truck was coming. Without much suspicion, the guard let them in. Ray and Ensign removed 2 boxes full of bills from the back of the truck and took them to the money counting floor. The money counters put these boxes into the room where the $100 bills were counted, while Ray and Ensign waited in the waiting room. Bosco was in the tunnel beneath the bank. Ray signaled him via radio that Donnie had reached the counting room. Bosco flipped a switch in the power grid, causing the entire bank's electricity to dim. This not only shut down the bank's shredding machine, but also turned off the cameras and motion sensors in the $100 bill counting room. A police guard told the counters they would have to shut down the system for a while and should take a break. As the counters and police left the counting area, Ray radioed Donnie that he could start his work. The room was clear. Donnie was hiding inside a box surrounded by bundles of $100 bills. He climbed out of the box and some bundles fell, which he put back. A bank employee, the woman who regularly ordered Chinese food, called the restaurant. Mac answered the phone. The woman complained that she had ordered an hour ago and her food hadn't arrived yet. Mac, speaking in a Chinese accent, said the food was on its way. Inside the bank, the police and security guards noticed the cameras and motion sensors weren't working. The police guard told another guard to count all the boxes as soon as possible before something went wrong. The security guard went to the cafeteria to call the counters. Donnie, who was hiding under a table in the counting room, was putting the $1 bills that were about to be shredded into black zipper bags. He then tossed the bags into the trash cans. The security guard returned to the counting room with 2 counters. Ray gave Donnie the signal to escape. Donnie lifted the cover of an air vent, climbed inside, and closed it from within. Donnie radioed Ray that he was in the vent, and Ray signaled Bosco to turn the power back on. As the lights came back on, everyone resumed their work. Donnie navigated through the vents, came out through the bathroom's ventilator shaft, picked up the food he had hidden earlier, and used the bank access card, the one the bank employee had forgotten at the bar, to move around the building. Donnie delivered the food to the woman and then left the building. Meanwhile, some of Donnie's friends were picking up the trash from the bank. They were sent in 2 separate trucks with the same company name, all part of the plan. They stopped at an intersection and exchanged nods. In the bank's basement, Alexei loaded the trash into his truck. On the other side, Ray and Ensign drove out of the bank in their security truck. Bosco was following the other garbage truck and radioed his location to Ray. Soon Ray reached the garbage truck and blocked it from the front, while Bosco blocked it from the back. Bosco ran toward the driver, held a gun to him, and told him to get out. Bosco drove the truck away, with the rest of the gang following. Nick was searching the city for Ray and his gang when he spotted Donnie on the road and pulled over. Mac saw from a distance that the police had put Donnie in their truck. Nick and his partners beat Donnie, asking where Ray and the others were. Donnie finally gave up and told them the location. Ray and his gang were at the dump site. Mac called Ray saying, "Donnie got caught. What do we do now?" Ray didn't answer and hung up. He told Ensign that Donnie and Mac had been caught, and the 2 of them drove away. Nick caught a glimpse of Ray's car and chased it onto a busy highway full of traffic. He radioed his location to detectives Murph and Baracho. Ray looked in the mirror and saw Nick's car 20 cars behind. Gus handcuffed Donnie to the car and left with Nick and Tony. Murph and Baracho also arrived. Ray, Ensign, and Bosco started getting out of their truck. As the police approached, Ray opened fire, shooting and killing one officer instantly. The police returned fire. The silence was broken by a barrage of bullets. Bullets tore through the cars from both sides. Bosco was shot in the neck. Ray shot back, hitting the police officer in the knee. Ray and Ensign started running down the street, with Nick in pursuit. Nick's partner, a skilled marksman, shot and killed Ensign. Ray ran into an alley, with Nick right behind him. Nick shot Ray, severely injuring him. Ray struggled to reload his gun. With great difficulty, he reloaded and managed to stand up. He started walking toward Nick, firing his gun. Nick reloaded his own gun and shot Ray in the chest. Ray fell, crawling behind a car, and pulled an empty magazine from his jacket. His ammunition was gone, but he still managed to stand up, pointing his empty gun at Nick. Nick, reluctantly and to protect himself, shot Ray again. He didn't know Ray was out of bullets. When Nick returned to his car, Donnie was gone. Nick and Gus pulled the black bags out of Ray's car and saw that they contained shredded notes, not whole ones. Nick went to the bar where Donnie worked and asked for his address. The owner said Donnie had quit 2 days ago. As Nick sat in the bar, 2 bank employees walked in, wearing their bank access cards around their necks. Nick looked closely at a football team picture on the wall, which showed Donnie sitting with some of his friends. As Nick walked out of the bar, he saw the bank. He realized that the mastermind of the entire scheme was none other than Donnie. In the end, we see Donnie working as a bartender in a London bar. His friends, who had played the role of the garbage collectors to orchestrate the whole game, were sitting with him. It turns out Donnie had planned to betray Ray and his gang all along. That's why his friends were driving 2 identical-looking garbage trucks, one with the shredded notes and the other with the $30 million in real $100 bills. It is revealed that Donnie had taken the money out of the bags, hidden it in the tires, and sent it to Panama. And now he was in London, planning another heist.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.